Hi everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's live webinar. Thank you so much for taking your time to join us. My name is Himanshi, and today's webinar is titled Accelerate Your Redis Modernization Journey with QMigrator. In this session, we'll focus on how organizations can seamlessly migrate to Azure Managed Redis, leveraging QMigrator, along with expert guidance from Redis and Quadrant Technologies. So before we begin, let me quickly introduce our speakers for today. So we have Manikyam. He is Vice President Alliances and Engineering in Quadrant. We have Philip. He is Senior Specialist Solution Architect in AMR. We have Harish Nagunuri. He is QMigrator Architect in Quadrant. We will also have question and answer session in the end, and we are excited to have such a strong panel with us today. So let's get the ball rolling.
Thank you very much, Himanshi, for those introductions. Good morning, everyone. This is Mani. I'm the Director of Engineering and Vice President for Alliances. I wear multiple hats. Glad to be here, part of this wonderful webinar, and very proud and happy to collaborate with Redis. Technical collaboration as well as strategical collaboration, the way we are moving forward and the way we are going. Just to introduce what Quadrant is, we do have 15 plus years of industry experience. We are a data and AI company serving data and AI technologies, modernizing the entire application landscape for our customers from last 10 years. We're spread across 10 different countries, headquartered in US, Redmond. At this point of time, we have around 3,000 plus professionals, and we strive for certification. So 50% of our employees are certified professionals. If you see some of the awards and recognitions, we are number 5 in the best technology company to work for in the Northwest region. And we were there consecutively 3 times in the fastest, Deloitte's Fast 500 list, based on certain parameters on the fastest growing companies list. We serve for almost 300 plus customers. Out of them, 80 plus are Fortune 500 companies. So our service offerings or our core expertise includes cloud consultancy. As part of cloud consultancy, we do design and development of cloud native services. We do a lot of cloud migrations. DevSecOps, we manage infra services to our customers. Application development and testing is our core area of expertise. Of course, data analytics. As part of data analytics, we do migrations, we do reportings, data minings. We build analytical data models for our customers. AI/ML, we have been investing from the last 3 years. As we speak, we are helping create AI landing zone for 200 plus customers. And cybersecurity is one of our core areas of expertise. This is a comprehensive list of service offerings that we offer to all our customers. Yeah, Harish, it's all yours. I think Philip, right?
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Mani. Awesome. Team, my name is Philip Lossemeyer. I'm a Senior Solutions Architect here at Redis, and I have the pleasure of working on our Azure Managed Redis product. A big quick shout out to our Quadrant partners for putting this on. They have a lot of exciting material and a demo of a tool they've actually built. But to take a step back, I want to make sure everyone on the line has sort of a base understanding of what is Redis, and then a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about specifically on Azure. How did we get there? So starting off, Redis is a key value in-memory data store. It's a really fancy way of saying it's meant to be an extremely performant database. It's meant to be very simple. And it's really tailored towards developers. So around 2009, Redis actually started as an open source project. It quickly, gained traction, steam, popularity. That led to pretty much every enterprise almost on the planet adopting it. And they wanted an enterprise version, right? They were hitting limitations, pain points. And so that's where Redis Inc. was started, the company I work for. And what we do is we sell Redis enterprise software. To give you a sense of the scale, Redis actually passed the 10 billion Docker pull mark last year. And really, it's meant to be a testament to how widely used and adopted Redis really is, and how we're sort of gotten to the point we have with Microsoft specifically. The key takeaway with Redis is if you're ever running into performance issues, resiliency, stability, that is a great place for Redis to come in and support. So keep that sort of on your radar. If you're a developer, a partner, an enterprise, and you're having any of those issues, that is where Redis would really be a great fit. So today we're going to be talking specifically about Azure and the Redis platform that's on there. Himanshu, if we could jump to the next slide to give some folks some context, right? So what we're focusing on today is Azure Managed Redis, but before we get to that, I need to give some background and context on the previous offering, Azure Cache for Redis. So I know the names are a little similar, but Cache for Redis is actually over 10 years old. So 10 years ago, again, similar timeline with when open source was released and popularity was increasing, Microsoft decided to offer it as their own solution. It was a copy or sort of fork of Redis that they hosted and maintained, and for 8 years that worked perfectly fine. Customers really enjoyed it, and it was typically used just for caching. Around 2 or 3 years ago, they formed a partnership with Redis to actually deploy and offer the enterprise tier. So you still had your open source tiers. They added the enterprise offering, and customers that adopted it, they had overwhelmingly positive feedback. They enjoyed the new performance, the use cases. And so after about 2 years of that, Redis and Microsoft decided to partner and build a net new service from the ground up, just to make it easier for customers to adopt, more tailored to sort of AI workloads. And all that being said, the previous service now is slated for retirement. What that entails is thousands of customers today are using Cache for Redis. The official retirement deadline, so when sort of the lights will be shut off, that is September 30th, 2028. The near-term deadline is October 1st of this year. And that is actually when the service creation block date will be in place. And so that's where partners like Quadrant are really meant to come in and help between now and then, migrating off of your Cache for Redis workloads into Managed Redis. Again, customers are always encouraged to migrate early, right? If you hit that October 1st date and you're not migrated, it's really a business continuity, disaster recovery implication, right? Because if you're not able to spin up additional instances, say in a high traffic event or an upcoming event like Black Friday, for example, that puts you, the enterprise or your partner, in a really tough spot. So with that being said, the main reason we're all here, Azure Managed Redis, this is a general available first-party service from Microsoft. What that means is Microsoft actually owns and maintains the product, but in partnership with us at Redis. So we supply the software, and then they deploy it at the Azure global scale. Of course, everything that comes with that, it's a managed offering. So, the customer is not meant to have to worry about any of the behind the scenes sharding, clustering, things they had to before on the previous service. And now you get all of the new Redis enterprise features, especially those on sort of the AI side, which are really exciting. We're going to talk about it quite a bit, but being a first-party offering from Microsoft, one of the biggest benefits is the integration, right? So all of their other first-party offerings that your customers, partners might be using very heavily, and we'll actually get to that here in a slide or two. It fits seamlessly into that architecture, and even to the point where a lot of these tools have single-click integrations, and that's only going to increase over time. And of course, we're going to touch on high availability, scalability, and security within the Azure footprint. And so why Microsoft decided to not only go through this entire exercise of building a new service, partnering with Redis, but ultimately why they recommend this service to customers who are on Cache for Redis today, is the first thing is you're going to be using Redis enterprise software underneath the hood. With that, you're going to get all the latest and greatest features that our Redis engineers work on day in and day and night. And that comes with enterprise-grade resilience. So we've had a lot of improvements there. Typically, folks knew Redis as just a straightforward cache, for example. It's a lot more than that, to the point where we actually have offerings now in certain scenarios with 5 nines of availability, something that is kind of unheard of for what you would have thought of just a cache a few years ago. But of course, scaling, performance, there's tons underneath the hood. You're going to see better throughput, better price, which is actually one of the exciting changes. Usually with a new service, that's not something you would expect, is that price actually got more competitive. and then, of course, simplified management. And again, this is the service that Azure is going to focus on in the future. So all focus is shifted on managed Redis, and cache Redis, again, is slated for retirement. And not to spend too much time on this one, but to give you a sense, right? Before, if you were using cache Redis, you were a customer, you were typically limited to a very subset of other Azure offerings you could partner it with, right? So typically you were in the data space, so think of the top right. Some aspects of app and compute where you were doing app service, maybe a session store, but that was really it. With managed Redis and all the new data modules that come into play, the AI aspects, it really unlocks a lot more, whether that's across Microsoft Foundry, API management, if you have a very highly distributed, heavy microservice architecture, Kubernetes, other container offerings, functions. These are all going to be, and already are, first-party integrations, right? So in your Azure portal or even in your CLI, you'll be able to connect a lot of these things to managed Redis a lot simpler, faster, and you'll get that performance out of it as well. Again, so why did this change happen? It really tied to the fact that Microsoft was seeing a lot of limitations with the open source Redis offering. It was hard to maintain. They were missing a lot of the critical features that Redis has been building over the past few years. For customers, it was worrying about clustering and sharding. It adds a lot of complexity and time. And they really wanted to make that experience for the customer even better, right? They're always customer focused. And the focus was, how can we give them better performance at a better price with the actual experts from Redis? And so that's how Azure Managed Redis was sort of born and created. Okay. And so we kind of teased up the AI aspect, right? And this is sort of the first use case that comes to mind that you all could probably utilize even today. So typically when you think of Redis over the past 10 years, you think of a data cache, right? So you place your Redis instance in front of a database. It's a straightforward caching use case, and it's meant to offload and protect your database. So what we've done at Redis is we've actually sort of copied the same pattern, but now we want to do the same thing for your LLMs and your agentic workflows. The idea being, in your Redis instance now, we can actually store embeddings. So not just plain text, we can store vector embeddings. And we have a search module as well. So what we can do is every time a user sends a request to an LLM, that request is going to be turned into vector embeddings. We're going to store that in your Redis instance. And then any n+1 request, right? So the next one, anyone after that, we're actually going to do a vector similarity search of that query plus what's already stored in Redis. And based on how similar they are in the distance, right, the vectors themselves, the actual numerical values, that's going to determine if it's a cache hit or not. And if it is, you can actually reuse the same response, right? So I'm here based in New York City. If I asked, an LLM, what is the weather in New York today? And then it gave me an answer. If 5 minutes later, another user said, what is the weather looking like today in New York, right? The verbiage is slightly different. It's not an exact match, but the underlying intent and meaning is. And so it would reuse the same response there. And the real implication for you as a customer, a partner, is no tokens are used in that scenario. So you save from that perspective. And it makes your AI agent, your architecture more resilient, right? You're getting the same benefits of a data cache hit, right? It's super fast. That request actually doesn't hit your LLM. So you're not, overburdening it, running into cost, anything like that. And this is just one of many, right? This is called semantic caching. These are where we're really excited of how Redis is now ready to sort of power AI agents, AI workflows with the same characteristics that you know and love about Redis around speed, performance, cost savings, resiliency. And Harish, did you want me to take this one, or you want to?
Yeah. So let's talk about like Azure and the AMR with a clear comparison. This slide summarizes why Microsoft is asking customers to move from Azure Cache for Redis to Azure Managed Redis. So let's walk through in few simple steps as the terms. Starting with the platform model, Azure Cache for Redis is based on the more traditional or the legacy Redis model. It works well, but it was designed in the earlier cloud workloads. As now we are coming into the Azure Managed Redis, on the other hand, is built on the Redis Enterprise, which is designed from ground up for enterprise scale and modern cloud patterns as well. When we are looking the scalability, the ACR is tied bound. That means the performance is tightly linked to the SKU. You choose scaling often means moving up tiers. With AMR, scaling is more enterprise oriented, giving much better flexibility, or like the high traffic and unpredictable workloads can also be managed with the AMR. Throughput is another major difference with ACR. Throughput is limited by the tier. When with the AMR, Microsoft is positioning up to like almost 15 times higher throughput, which becomes more important for the APIs microservices and like AI-driven applications, where we can see higher performance can be observed in the AMR. And coming to the cost is also closely tied to with ACR. Cost can increase significantly as you scale with AMR because of the better resource utilization, and customers often see like lowest cost at the same memory tier, especially for the high throughput out workloads. Of course, this workload depends on the always validating this during migrations and the plannings. Whenever the customer is looking for the fast performance during the migrations and which can be expected. And like another key point is like reliance is one more key factor where ACR provides basic resilience, while AMR is designed with enterprise grade resilience, making tied suited for mission critical applications. And you can also notice like Redis modules are like the AI readiness, and ACR do not support advanced Redis models or like the AI use cases. While we are coming into the AMR, does this will enable the things like semantic catching and AI integration, which we talk about shortly.
Awesome. Thanks, Harish. So one thing that I'm lucky is that I get to work with customers day in and day out, right? And a lot of them, like all of us, are being tasked with, how am I going to get AI agents deployed? I need to work on some generative AI workflows. And what, we at Redis and just overall in the industry are noticing about these AI apps, they run into some issues, right? The first one, probably the biggest, is personalization, or sometimes referred to as context. This idea of how can we take advantage about the data specific to you, or for example myself, give that to the LLM and then help the LLM give a better tailored response to me, right? Another one being performance. A lot of these AI agents are getting slower in a sense, some on purpose, whether that's like thinking, sometimes not, right? If they're calling a lot of tools, MCP servers, a lot of hops. Performance is something that's always on top of everyone's mind, right? How long it's going to take, uptime, reliability. And then the big one, cost, right? Tokens are very expensive. These applications can get very popular. And so token spend can increase very rapidly. And so the reason I bring all these up, excitingly enough, Managed Redis actually can support each one of these individually in different ways. For the sake of time, I'll just gloss over, for example, personalization and context, right? The idea there would be Redis can be your agent memory, and that you really want to take advantage of the in-memory aspect, right? That ties into performance as well. It can get that memory to your different aspects of your architecture and application lightning fast. And then cost, right? When you're using a managed Redis instance, for example, there is no pay per use model, right? This is a pay for use, essentially, time based, and that's the beauty, right? So as long as you're getting the most out of it, you're not getting any sort of hitting costs where it's like read units, search units, anything like that. So it's really exciting for your AI workloads.
Coming to here, let's talk about performance and cost benefits, because this is usually where customers see most tangible value for moving the Azure Managed Redis. The first point you can see here, up to like 15 times higher throughput, and what is really means in simple terms in the is that Azure Managed Redis can handle many more requests per second compared to the Azure Cache for Redis at similar memory sizes. This becomes especially more important for the APIs, microservices, and applications with sudden traffic spikes. The reason is possible. This is possible optimized resource utilization, and Azure Managed Redis is built on the Redis enterprise architecture, uh, which uses like the CPU, memory, much more efficiently than the traditional tier based model. Instead of hitting limited limits like quickly with the ACL, the platform can better distribute the process and workload under the high demand when we are migrating into the AMR. Now let's talk about the cost efficiency, because performance and the cost are closely connected with Azure Cache for Redis. As traffic grows, like the customer often have to move to the higher tiers just to keep up with the throughput. With Azure Managed Redis, because the same memory tier can deliver much higher throughput, customers can see better cost efficiency and at the same size of memory. This doesn't mean that cost magically drop overnight, but it does mean you get more value for what you're already paying. The final point here is like the better performance for the high traffic applications. If you are running, the customer is facing like the applications APIs or real time workloads, consistent low latency really matters. So Azure Managed Redis is designed to handle these high throughput scenarios much more predictably, and even during the peak traffic times as well. Uh, it improves the overall, we can say, is like it improves the performance, scales more efficiently, and helps controls cost as the workloads grow.
Thanks, Rish. So, team, a really big aspect of managed Redis being a first party offering and being hosted and operated by Microsoft, right? A big piece of that is the ecosystem that comes with that, um, especially around integration, right? So, if you are already deployed on Azure, you're using a lot of the services we flashed up on one of those earlier slides. There's a good chance your ecosystem is heavily tied into that, right? Whether that's for observability and monitoring, so things like Azure Monitor, log analytics. You probably don't want to have to, throw in another tool or set up a whole new configuration. And that's the beauty is your metrics are going to go through that same pipeline for managed Redis. So you can take advantage of having all of your analytics monitoring in one place, especially if you're an Azure heavy type shop. But also if you're using third-party tooling, right? The extensions all integrate as well. So that's one piece to take into consideration. And then the others, right? We've talked about some of these, Azure API management. The semantic caching use case we showed earlier, that's actually a one-click integration today on Azure APM or API management that you could take advantage of. So this idea of how can we make it as easy for customers to spin this up and start using it today. Again, Azure OpenAI, one of their biggest partnerships, things like semantic caching, agent memory, that's where managed Redis is really going to shine. We have a lot of materials. If you look up some of the blog posts, especially around Microsoft Ignite, their big conference from last year, you can find some examples, some GitHub repos. So those are pretty exciting, and you can see how it actually is deployed in real time.
Let's talk about like the how migration is safe and flexible, and migration strategy. Not that we have discussed why Azure Managed Redis is better than for the performance and the cost perspective. And the next big question is like the even all the customers may have, is this migration is risky? No, it's designed to be safe and flexible. First, there is no forced immediate migration is required. Microsoft is not asking all the customers to shed anything down or like the rush immediately to the AMR. Your existing Azure cache for the Redis instance continue to run, and the migration can happen on your timeline aligned with your business priorities. And second, there are multiple migration approaches, which means this is not one size fit all move. Like depending on the workload, we can choose different strategies for simple cutovers and for low risk caches to more controlled approach for the critical applications. Microsoft is giving the heads up. One of the most important assurance here is that rollback is always available until the final cutover is complete. Your original ACR instances remains same. If anything does not behave as expected, switching back to the straightforward. This is the key reason why customers can migrate with confidence. And because of all this, business continuity is assured. End user does not see the outages and the application behaves and it remains same as like the previous business continuity is going to be done as assured. Coming to the migration strategy, now let's speak like actually how the migration approach can be done like step by step. The first step is to like inventory existing ACR workloads. We identify the where Redis is used, or whether it's whether it's simple caching and sessions, APIs, and high throughput services. And we also try to understand like traffic patterns and the usages. Next, we classify the workloads by criticality. Not everything needs to move at once. Non-critical and the catchy aside workloads usually move first, and then like the business criticality systems are handled later with more controlled strategies. Based on this, we choose like the appropriate Azure managed Redis tier, not just matching memory, but aligning the throughput and the performance requirements properly as per the customer requirements. Finally, we plan the phase migration. This allows team to migrate gradually and validate performance and the cost benefits, and only then processed with the critical workloads. This is the key approach, or like the this is the key where the simple the migration is planned and reversible and designed to protect your business while modernizing your platform.
And now we will learn how easily it can be accomplished using QMigrator. We know that migrations are often the biggest bottleneck in digital transformation. That's why we introduced QMigrator. Uh, QMigrator is Quadrant's flagship AI automation platform. It streamlines the entire journey from assessment and schema conversions to deployment, testing, and production cutover. It does migrations from any database to any database. With AI agents enabled, it achieves up to 15 terabytes of data migration per day, performs intelligent code conversions, and ensures near 100% data validations. Modules like the code conversion agent, the autonomous migration agent, and the DB agent simplify migration, automate the monitoring, and optimize performance. As part of our end-to-end migration framework, QMigrator not only delivers faster, smarter, it also delivers more reliable transformations. Uh, this is how we start in three key stages. We handle these migrations in three key stages. First, we de-risk the start. We don't just guess. We use an AI assistant assessment to identify performance bottlenecks before we even move a single byte or single infrastructure. This SaaS application tracks progress and tunes the migration plan automatically. Second, we ensure reliability during the move. As you see in points 2 and 3, the engine is built on a scalable Kubernetes architecture. Whether your workload is massive or volatile, the system scales to handle it. Plus, we've wrapped that in comprehensive testing, automating code conversions and validating performance so that after state is better than the before state of migration. Finally, we handle any scenario. Whether you look at points 4, 5, or 6, QMigrator is versatile. It handles homogeneous moves or heterogeneous moves. It even supports full application modernization, such as moving from legacy infrastructure like ACR to the new AMR standards. What are the key benefits? As I mentioned, yes, faster timelines. Migrations are completed up to 70% faster compared to traditional methods. Reduced costs when compared to manual migration or any other traditional tools. It saves does a lot of migration cost savings and up to 80% in infrastructure cost savings. It supports in massive data transfers. As I said, as we speak, it's 15 terabytes per day, and the tool can automatically convert up to 80% of code, minimizing huge manual intervention. And I mean, we can talk more about it. There are some slides giving you more information on QMigrator, and you can always reach out to us to understand any sort of these migration workload migrations, any workload migrations by reaching out to us. Why QMigrator for ACR to MR? Yes, of course. As Philip and Harish mentioned, there is an urgency, and we need to align to the timelines of September 30th, 2028, where Microsoft has set retirement timelines for ACR, and QMigrator can ensure your organizations align with those long-term Azure roadmap. Of course, QMigrator can handle any complexities in the migrations. It simplifies the moves to AMR's enterprise grade technology, handling end-to-end migration. And of course, the last one, moving to AMR via QMigrator, it also enables the AI-driven patterns, and you can easily perform the semantic caching for Azure OpenAI, which reduces latency and token costs. We'll see a short demo of QMigrator. It's a 3 to 4 minutes of a video, just to give you an idea how seamlessly and how easily the migration is taken care by QMigrator. And if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat, or there is an email ID that will be provided as part of this presentation. You can reach out to us anytime, and how QMigrator can be used for this ACR to AMR migration. Yeah. We can play the video. Malik. Okay, so yeah, while you figure out the logistics, the technical logistics, let me run through some of the recommended next steps. Can you go to the previous slide, Shirley? Yeah. Sorry about that. We'll just go through the video. Someone from my team will present the video, and you can have a look at it. It's a 3 to 4 minutes video. But what would be the recommended steps? What you need to do, or what you can do as part of this migration, right? We provide Quadrant in collaboration with Redis. We provide a no cost assessment. It's a zero cost assessment to all our customers. We'll work with you. We'll define the assessment scope based on the selected ACR workloads. We'll assess the current configuration, your infrastructure. We also use usage patterns, and also the entire end-to-end dependencies. And we execute a safe, low-risk ACR to MR migration using QMigrator. It's a no cost. It's a zero cost. You can reach out to us if you're interested to understand more details about it and want to play with it. And then as part of the phase 1 itself, we validate the performance improvements. We'll give you an overview of migration plan and how stability and application behavior looks like. What are the operational benefits of AMR?
Show the Redis migration where the source is Redis.
Okay, yeah, go ahead with the video.
And the target is Azure Managed Redis. We already have the servers established with data, and I have opened the 2 connections with Redis CLI to check. This is the source. In the source, we have 7,038 records and 1 search index with the search module installed. If we see in the Azure Redis, we have 0 data and 0 indexes. Here we are on QMigrator homepage. Before starting the migration, we have to set up the connections. In the connection screen, we can set up the database source and target. I have already added the source database server and the target database to Azure Redis. You can add the source and target by clicking Add Source. Then, give the connection name, host, port, database, username, password, and SSL. You can test and add the record to the connection. Now, let's start with the data migration. On screen, go to the E2E migration page. This E2E migration consists of an assessment and migrating the data. Here, we will select the source connection, database as data load type, and the target is Azure Managed Redis. We have 3 types of operation scan, which is the initial load. Live is initial plus CDC, and live only is only CDC mode, so let's have the initial load first. Let's give the request CPU, limit CPU for migrating resource constraints. By checking this, the feature includes a search index from source to export and load to the target Redis database as well. Once we click on Execute, it will start the execution with the initial load. We can see the status here. The run ID 10 is started. It's initialized as of now. It will take some time to have the assessment report generated. As you can see, it's completed. Here, pre-extraction is completed, meaning the assessment report has been generated. To see the assessment report, click on the Report section, select Extraction, Run ID 10, and download the report. Let's review the Excel report. We can see the summary. We have 7,038 key records, and 4 MB of memory is being used by data. 1 is a search index, and 1 module detected in Redis is a search module. Here we have key space detail, and a list of data by type, and module-wise, how many counts are present. Let's see the execution status and log as well. This is the migration log, which will show how much migration has been completed or if any error present. As the log suggested, it started the migrations, and you can see the 100% migration completed. Here, the verification step is also initialized, with 7,038 out of 7,038 record has been migrated and compared. Additionally, 1 search index has also been exported. As we can see, the code for index here. Let's review the target side now. By seeing the database size, we can see 7,038 records. Let's verify the search index as well. And that index is also created. Here initial has been completed. Now let's review the CDC and see if the data is getting synced. This time, we will select the live only, which is only the CDC migration. Messages says execution has started. Now on a source database, let's try to add a few records and see if the target is able to capture. I have inserted a new record in the source. Now let's see the database size. It shows the 7,039 records now. On the target side, a CDC record has been transferred successfully. Let's delete the record and see getting deleted on the target. We again see the DB size has been reduced by 1 record, confirming the deletion operation too. This is all about this Redis migration with QMigrator. Thank you. Hello.
Awesome. Thank you, team. This is how simple it is. We just took a sample migration as part of the video, but it can handle any complex, infrastructure, complex migrations. It may have multiple dependencies as part of your application. So we take care of that. We can, when we do the assessment, zero cost assessment, we will ensure we provide you all the required details as part of the assessment plan that we validate and provide it to you. We can go to the next step, next slide. So as phase 2, yes, as a next step, we share, we can also do a POC. We share POC outcomes and observations. We'll review the impact and performance metrics with you. And we'll work with you, align on a clear phased production migration roadmap. And as part of phase 3, if you are interested, we can work on production migration plan. execute it in phases based on the priority and criticality, and we ensure zero to minimal downtime, validation, and rollback readiness to optimize, and also will take care of optimizing performances and cost post migration. Awesome. So that's about QMigrator. We will talk about some of the commonly asked questions.
Yes, QMigrator integrates with CI and CD pipeline by supporting the automated and repeatable migration steps that can be triggered and validated, and also can be do like the rollback for the modernization, the workflows as well.
Awesome. I think I'm hidden. You guys might be able to see me a little, but I'm happy to take this one. First, love that demo. I think it's really cool what the Quadrant folks have built. Can really help you and your customers. I had to call that out. I see we have a question from Rick. First off, thanks for the question, Rick. What are the common root causes of Redis downtime in production environments? So this one could have its an own session itself. I will say, Rick, a lot of the things have to do with memory is a big one, right? So running out of memory usually gives you a lot of issues. What else? Actual availability, right? So how you set up your Redis cluster. The beauty of managed Redis, that whole aspect of your deployment is taken away from you, sort of the responsibility. You don't need to worry about how to set it up in the best format. Microsoft does that for you. And then the beauty with the partnership is you get all the SLAs from Microsoft, right? So if you deploy in high availability, it's a configuration item you would select. You get 4 nines of availability, right? So 99.99% availability. And that's how they handle that aspect of it. But if you want to learn more about actual Redis, best practices, I would go to either the Microsoft docs or our Redis.io docs for best practices around that. Rick, if you're running into a specific issue, throw that in the chat or reach out to me personally.
Yeah. Okay. Post migration dataset validation. Okay. Yeah. Post migration dataset validation can become complex because like the verification relies on multiple factors, data consistency, TTL behavior, and there are like a few key counts and hash checks, and also like the application level risk and the real-time traffic validation rather than simple like a record can be matching. So all this can also to be considered while doing the post migration steps, and we need to do verification once it is done. Okay. QMigrator. Okay. Yes, QMigrator securely transfers data in place using the encrypted connections and least privilege access and no data persistence or like the payload logging. Ensuring this sensitive Redis data is never stored or exposed during the migration. So we can say that is 100% like the data is securely transferred from one place to the another.
I can take this one. Charles, how does and I think maybe it's me, but I hear an echo. How does Redis support e-commerce business growth? So funny enough, Charles, this is actually one of our largest use cases. To put it in perspective, right? If you think of any of the big e-commerce giants, Amazon, Walmart, Target, when you're on that website, right, as a consumer, you probably recall there's your cart, right? So that goes along with you in your session. You might be able to close the page and come back and say 5 minutes, and it's still there. If you've ever wondered how that's possible, underneath the hood, Redis is actually supporting that. Session store is typically that use case. And what that allows you as the business to do is your customers, while they're interacting with your site, right? You wouldn't want to send that data to sort of a colder storage offering because, those are your terabytes of data, your petabytes. And that's not built for that really high, fast, in the moment, real-time data, right? You want that cart to be updated the second you click add to cart. So Redis is really the solution there. Not only does it, add to the performance aspect, but it saves those databases behind the scenes from all of that real-time traffic as well. Once you go through and actually execute your checkout, your cart, that's when the rest of the flow sort of takes off. But if you're in e-commerce going through business growth, we can send you some reference architectures, and it will show that Redis will become sort of in that mission critical path for e-commerce especially.
Okay, how QMigrator reduce the operational workload? Okay, QMigrator reduces operational workload by automating, uh, like we do discover and the data movement, and also we do the validation, and we also have like the rollback workflows, eliminating the manual coordination, and we are also having like the scripting and repeated migration efforts. So all these can help, like the queue migrator can do, and reduce the operational workload while the manual intervention wherever it is required, where the queue migrator is going to take the complete burden, and it is going to move the complete workflow by doing the automation.
Yep, just to add what Harish mentioned, I mean, it has the maturity and capability to reduce the workload during migration by automating repetitive and error-prone tasks like schema conversions, data movement, and integrity checks. Netted at, it centralizes the process with built-in validation and reporting dashboards, minimizing manual intervention and speeding up decision making. Automated reconciliation and quality checks sometimes, many times help detect issues early, reducing the need for extensive manual testing. Overall, it streamlines the overall workflow, so teams spend less time on routine tasks and more on strategic migration activities.
Yeah.
Hope that answers.
I saw this in the chat. Great question, Brian. So really the question's around performance of Redis at large enterprise scale deployments. So this is actually something we didn't have a chance to cover in the slide material, but the approach that Microsoft has actually taken here is pretty intuitive. So instead of before, right, on Cache for Redis, if you go look, or if you're a current customer, your offerings were feature tier based, right? So you had basic, standard, premium, and you would select those based on the certain feature you required. With Managed Redis, since all the features are available across tiers, it's democratized in that sense, they actually tailored the SKUs to match your specific workload. So you'll see there's a balanced option that's just meant for everyday workloads. Then there's memory optimized and compute optimized, right? So when you call out, Brian, balancing memory usage and performance, if it was a use case where memory was more important, you would go with the memory optimized tiers. And then on the flip side, if say memory or payload wasn't the concern, but just raw throughput, that would be your compute optimized offerings. So it really is, you have the best of both worlds where it's tailored specifically to your workload. And then of course, the cost mirrors that as well. So if you're using any like Azure VMs, for example, it mirrors that same nomenclature and setup because under the hood, that's what's powering it, of course. So, but great question. Team, I think happy to share this one. Mohan is asking about large key space environments, increasing operational overhead. This is a big one, right? Because it's one of those overall best practice planning where, when you start your instance, it might be for a simple application or use case, and you don't need to worry about your key space, naming convention, and how you want to build it. But if that quickly grew, right, if you had other applications add to it or more teams, it sort of grew in use cases. This is definitely something you want to keep in mind. And I don't think, I mean, Harish, Manny, correct me if I'm wrong. Does QMigrator help with anything? I saw it gave some information in the Excel output. Is that correct about key space? Do you guys want to talk about any of that at all? I think it was covered in the demo. It was one of the outputs, but I think that would be a really good, getting a sense of what your current environment looks like. That's where I would start, Mohan, for sure. I'm loving these questions, though. It's a great audience today. Yeah, let's see how much we still have some time to get to a few more.
Yes, like the incremental migration approaches are popular in enterprise workloads because they can reduce the risk and allow continuous validation and minimize the downtime. And it also like the enable easy rollback and team modernization systems are gradually without disturbing the business operations when we are going with the full migration. So most of the environments and the enterprises are encouraging only like the incremental migration approach, and this is very popular for the workloads to become to reduce the risk as well in the enterprises. So this is one of the most popular one instead of the full migration. Yeah, I hope we answered this post-migration dataset validation.
Okay, Rochelle, hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Redis modernization often focuses on architecture redesign, technology upgrades, driving transformation, and migration strategy being the real success factor. So, Rochelle, as you mentioned, it's a mix of all three, right? I do want to highlight something that maybe we glossed over earlier. The big change in this from Microsoft's perspective, right? Yes, it is a new service that they are offering, but the biggest thing for you all, especially if you're going to go through migration using tools like QMigrator, the client libraries are still compatible. So that is something that we should call out. And what that means for you all, right? When you think about having to redesign your architecture or redesign your actual code, that aspect stays the same, right? The libraries you're using, the connection, that will all be the same, the commands, everything. You only need to worry about how do you set up your new instance. And then for examples where you need tools like QMigrator, how do you get your data across? But otherwise, everything we talked about is purely on the business side, right? How do you want to take advantage of the AI capabilities? How fast do you want to migrate? So that's all more on the planning side. But from the technological perspective, once you get your new instance set up, you update the connection string, everything else should work just as is. Team, this looks like a mix of both. So Cesar, what I can mention first about the licensing piece. This is first party, so there's no license, there's no marketplace. You spin this service up like you would any other Azure product like Cosmos DB, MySQL, and so you'd be charged through that. So there's no additional licensing, nothing like that. And then operational costs. I'll let the the Quadrant team talk about how migrating faster and stuff can help with operational costs. But yeah, Harish, anything you want to add to that? If I covered it, no worries. We do have 4 minutes left, so let's see how many we can get to. I will try to answer some in the chat as well.
Yeah, I can take up the question by Rani. Automation tools like QMigrator promise faster migration outcomes. From your experience, where does automation provide the biggest advantage during Redis transformation? So from practical migration experience, yes, QMigrator's biggest advantage during Redis transformation is automation with control. It not only helps map legacy data structures to Redis key value or in-memory models while handling schema and format differences systematically, but also the built-in validation and reconciliation reduce the risk of data loss or inconsistency during high-speed data moves. It's phased and testable migration workflows also let teams modernize to Redis with the minimal downtime and the safe cutovers. You will love it. You will enjoy it. Using QMigrator. Yeah, I think we have 2 more minutes, but loving the questions that we are getting. What we'll do, we'll make sure we are answering each and every question after this meeting, and of course, there are some contact details at the end where you can always reach out to us for any further information or any further questions. So surely we can go to the slides. Next slide, please.
Yeah, so I'll take it from here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today and for taking the time to be here. And if you have any questions or any queries after the session, please feel free to reach out to us to the email address that is mentioned on the screen. And in case any questions were not addressed during the session, we will sure to follow up and share the responses with you over the email. And we're happy to take it forward from there. Thanks again. And thanks again for joining the session. Yeah.
And also, keep putting the contact details here in the chat. Also, we'll drop our personal email IDs as well. Please feel free to reach out to us anytime. Thank you, Manshi. Thanks, Philip. Amazing, working with you. Thanks, Hari.
Likewise. Thank you, everyone, for joining, taking the time out of your day. Hopefully you learned something. I always do on each of these calls. A huge shout out to our Quadrant team. They set this up. They built this awesome tool. But yeah, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn, be in touch. But I look forward to hearing how you guys are all using Redis. Awesome. Thanks, team.
Thank you.
Thank you all.